Thank you for joining us at Worcester County Library online programs. This week, June 14th through the 20th, where we are celebrating National History Week, and we have put together a mini museum right here of items that were used on the Eastern Shore. A lot of them were probably used, 100 years ago. These items that we've decided to put together are items that can be picked up and touched, and it's a great way to teach children about history that's not from a textbook, because they can actually look at the item and decide for themselves maybe what that item was used for. So today I have with me Lena, and we're going to be looking at these items and picking them up and trying to guess what the items are used for. So Lena, what I'd like you to do is just pick an item out and look at it and test it out and try to guess what that item was used for.
Okay. I'm gonna see this one. So, I'm not sure, but I think it might be like a thing to mash up food, like they had, like if they grew crops, like if they had potatoes and stuff, like to mash potatoes or something.
Very good. You're right. Some of the items, can I borrow this for a minute?
Sure.
Some of the items might be exactly like what your mom has at home in her kitchen, or that you've seen someone else use before. And so sometimes the design of an item is so good that they just keep it. You can't really improve on it much. And this is one of those things that a lot of people still have in their kitchen. This is an old potato masher, and it can be used to mash up any kind of fruit or vegetable. So very good. And you might find other things on the table that look familiar to you that maybe still have the same design that they have today.
This thing, I think it was also used to mix, to make cake or something.
Mhm. Yep.
It's kind of like an electric blender thingy.
Yes, an electric blender. So now the electric blenders, you plug in and you don't have to wind this little handle to make it move, do you? You just plug it in and it works. But that's an old egg beater.
These are iron,
Mhm.
you told me. And this is the little kid's iron, right?
Yeah, so
Is it real?
while Mom is ironing with this big one, and pick it up, it's feel how heavy it is.
It's so heavy.
Yes. Can you imagine ironing clothes with that heavy iron?
But this one isn't heavy at all.
That one's not that heavy, and that one children would use so they could pretend to iron right along while their mom was ironing.
Like if they have toy dolls, if their clothes come off or something.
Mhm.
They
Right.
pretend to iron their clothes.
Exactly. They could pretend to iron their dolls' clothes.
So this is an iron.
Yes.
I'm thinking this right here might be a lamp,
Mhm.
like a type of lamp.
So they would fill this up with oil, and how do you turn on your lights when you go into your room?
You flick a switch.
You flick
but
a switch.
But I turn on my fan because it doesn't work.
Mhm. So when you flick that switch on, that's all you need to do to turn the lights on, because you have what that runs to your house?
Electricity.
You have electricity that runs to your house. Well, a long time ago, people didn't have electricity that went to their houses, so they would have to go light their oil lamps at nighttime, and they'd fill the bottom part up with oil. This would unscrew, and then they would put a match up here and light the wick. And this part right here, you could make the light brighter by putting the wick up further, and putting the wick down would make it more dim. And then they put this cover on, and that's how they lit up their rooms. They didn't have switches.
That seems like a lot of work. How
That
long
is
did it take?
that is a lot of work. Well, it'll probably take a little while to go out and light all those in your house at night, wouldn't it?
Mhm. We don't have a guess for this one, I don't think. But did they make cake back then?
Yes, they made homemade cakes.
So I think this was used to make cake, like to mix the cake, just like this thingy was made to use to mix the eggs.
Very good. So you see the same kind of design in your egg beater there, or your mixer, as you do in this. This is obviously paddles down here that's mixing. And this was used they would put milk in here and they would crank that around, and what do you think they made?
Cake?
Well, just the milk. The milk cream.
Cream.
If they put cream in there, what would that make?
Milk.
What do you put on your biscuits?
Butter.
Butter, yeah. You make butter. This is a butter churn. Let's hold it this way. You put your hand on top, on the very top, and I'm going to turn, let's lift it up a little bit, because it is a drill, and we don't want to drill the table. So you would turn this like that, and that would turn the drill bit, and it would make a hole into the wood. Now, what would an adult use today? They wanted to make
an electric drill. They just like flick a switch, I think, and they keep their finger on it, and then they like drill. Or I think it's like you just like flick it, and then you just like.
Yeah. So you think this one using a drill like this would probably take a lot longer, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And what do you use with this? Does this one move?
Let's test it out. I'll hold the bottom and you play around with it and see if you can get it to move. It might be a little stiff because it's, like I said, these are pretty old.
Don't know what this was used for.
Well, this.
I think it was used to measure things, though.
To measure?
Yeah, that's what I think it was meant
for.
So, was it meant for measuring things?
Well, this actually is a bottle capper. So you would put your bottle, under here, and you put the bottle cap on, up in here, and you'd mash down on this. There it goes. Mash down on that handle, and it would press the bottle cap onto the bottle underneath. So if they made homemade root beer, they could bottle it right at home.
But why can't they just screw it on?
Well, the caps that they had were the kind that kind of bent over the ledge of the bottle at the top, and you would need this to mash it down with.
No, I have no idea what this is for, but I might have a guess in a few seconds. I think it's used to spin thread.
To spin thread? Okay, well, that's a good guess. What about this clamp here? We've got a clamp on that side. Let me switch the order around for you. Let's turn it this way and pretend we were going to clamp it onto a table right down here like that, and we would use this to secure it. And now we actually have a clue here.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
I think it was just to saw things in half.
To saw things in half? No. But we do have a clue because it's written on here.
What does it say?
It says Enterprise Cherry Stoner. So what we think this is, you put it on your table. You'd put your cherries in. And a cherry has what on the inside?
A pit.
A pit. And you'd put this and you'd crank that and the cherry would come out, but the pit, it would remove the pit from the cherry.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you like put cherries in.
Mm-hmm.
It removes the pit and then it just comes out and then you can eat the cherry.
Then you can eat the cherry pit-free. Exactly. Very good.
I wonder what this gadget is.
Yes. What you just did right there is what you would do with that. Kind of, yeah. When you make pie crust or biscuits and you mix the butter in with the flour, this is a pastry blender. And this cuts up the butter all into the flour, into the pastry, and the design hasn't changed at all. We could go into any kitchen store now and find these exact pastry blenders. They're made exactly like this one was. So again, this is another design that's really good and hasn't changed.
I think this might be a thing to like either make like cook things on the stove.
Very good, because you have the handle here. You put eggs in here and poach your eggs. And then you could squeeze this and lift it up and slide your eggs off. What haven't we looked at yet here?
This marble jar.
The marble jar, you know what they are, because you can still buy marbles today and play those.
Yeah.
Those marbles happen to be.
And look at these big marbles.
That's your shooter marble.
And these are your little marble thingy-madoodles.
That's a game they used to play a long time ago. That's still around today.
So you put them in a circle, and then you like do that, and you try to knock one out of the circle.
You try to knock it out of the circle, exactly. Sounds like you played marbles before.
I haven't. I've only watched like shows on how to play.
You've seen shows on how to play. Okay. What do you think this is?
I had a guess with this before. I think it's a thing to like make thread.
To make thread?
I think so.
So you think like a spool, maybe a thread would go on there?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. Well, this is another machine that is, the design is very similar to one. In fact, I have one at home that is rusty like this. It's brand new, and it's the same exact design as what they had 100 years ago. It actually cores your apple and peels your apple. So you would stick the apple on these prongs, and you turn the handle.
Like a real apple, like a giant apple, like just picked from a tree?
Yes, you put the apple on, and now turn it the other way. So then, as you turn these prongs, they go through here. The apple's pushed through here, and it cores the apple. And this piece on here, on the outside, see that piece?
That's cool.
That peels the apple, takes the skin off, and this takes the inside core out. So you're left with an apple that's completely peeled, and the core is gone. That apple core is gone. And then you have apples you can use for apple pie, or baked apples, or...
That sounds cool, and way quicker than just like, I think it's like...
But if you had to do it with a knife, yeah, it does. It is a little faster than just doing it with a knife.
I thought everything, like from like 100 years ago, would take slower than today, but I guess I was wrong.
Some of the designs are still around today. So they were used back then, and they're used now. Still. Now, some aren't. Some were not so efficient, but some...
I think this is still around today.
What is that?
I think it's either a fly swatter or a French fry cooker.
It does look like, if you've ever seen in a fast food restaurant, they would put their fries in and close it up and then put it down in the hot grease. Exactly, and then they shake it around.
Like we have in our house.
Do you have one like this at your house?
Sort of. I think it's a little bigger though.
And this one I think was actually used either maybe for toast or for popcorn. So you could put popcorn in here and put it over the heat. And
that's kind of this. If it weren't made for popcorn, it would still be around today. And like a French fry cooker.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you can try at home is making popcorn on your stove.
Now, I probably think this guess will be super wrong, but I think this might be a shoe.
Yes, it is shaped like a shoe, isn't it?
Yes, it looks exactly like a shoe.
So people reused and repaired everything, Lena, a long time ago. There weren't many things that you threw away. So if you had a hole in your shoe and it needed to be stitched up, you'd put the shoe on here. There'd be a pole that you'd put in the bottom, and that would hold your shoe. And then somebody would stitch and repair the shoe or make shoes using a mold like this that would hold.
So is this a shoe?
This isn't the exact shoe, but it's what you would put the shoe on to hold it steady while you repaired the shoe.
Oh, no wonder it looks just like a shoe. It's probably going to have to look like a shoe.
Right, so the shoe can fit on there.
And I'm guessing this is a quilt.
Yes, that's a quilt. This quilt wasn't made in a factory. This quilt was made by hand. And let me tell you something special about the quilt. So take a look at this.
It's big.
And look at how it's sewed. it's sewed like a sack, right?
Yeah. But
Okay.
is it actually
See the
like a
thread?
sleeping bag?
No, it's not a sleeping bag. You know, they used to sell seed or flour in these sacks like this. Now, if you had to buy a bag of seed, what would you buy? Would you rather buy it in an old like canvas bag that didn't have colors on it, or would you like to buy it in a bag with pretty colors?
I would like to buy it in a bag with pretty colors.
Yes. So there was a double purpose in it. You would get your bag, your flour sack or your seed bag like this, and you'd get not only what was inside it, Lena, but you get this really pretty fabric. And women used to reuse it. So here's one that was taken apart.
Is it small?
And it made a big piece of fabric. Look at this. You want to hold one in for me?
It could be used
There you
as a
go.
picnic blanket.
Now look at that. So now you had this nice pretty piece of fabric that you would have had to paid money for, but
it has a hole.
there's a little hole in it. So guess what they used the fabric for?
To make blankets?
They made quilts with the scraps, but they would make draperies with this fabric. They'd make dresses.
What's a drapery?
Your dresses might, if you had lived if you were alive 100 years ago, you might have had dresses made out of fabric made from these bags. So the scraps that they had left over after they made dress or draperies, then all these little scraps that were used, see? Look at come around here and look at the quilt. See how each piece of fabric is different and has a different pattern?
Yeah, and even if you look super closely, you can even see the little stitches.
All those stitches were handmade. They weren't done by a sewing machine. And the little pieces of fabric were made from different feed bags.
Let's see if we could try to match this one. Do you think it might be in?
Yeah, I don't think that particular one is in there. I think that that they saved this one for a project that never happened.
It'd be kind of cool if it was still there.
Oh, look at these. See these?
What's that?
Remember how we talked about they didn't throw away things? They used everything. It was like ultimate recycling back 100 years ago. So they didn't have plastic. Well, these actually are plastic, but they didn't have throwaway pens. They reused them. So this particular fountain pen, you would take and you would unscrew it, and you'd take your ink bottle and you'd fill the fountain pen up with ink and reuse it time and time and time again.
I'm going to try doing that right now.
So when you ran out of ink, this wouldn't work because this is dried up, but when you ran out of ink, you just didn't throw your ink pen away. You actually reused it.
It doesn't open.
Now you know what else was reused?
The glass bottle.
Yes. So this, can you read that on there?
Stephen's Diary. Pocomoke City.
Yes, very good. Stephen's Dairy,
Oh.
Pocomoke City. Dairy and diary look a lot alike.
Yeah.
They're very close. So what kind of bottle was this? What do you think came in here?
Milk.
Milk. It was a milk bottle. So every week your milk would be delivered to your doorstep with the milk bottle. And they didn't throw away the carton. They would save the bottle, and next week when the milkman brought you new milk, you would give him the old bottles to refill, and he would clean those out and refill them with fresh milk. So again, nothing got thrown away. They saved everything. And they also did the same with soda bottles. So your soda came in bottles, and they would reuse those bottles. You could actually get money if you turn the bottles back in.
Where's the cap for this thing in the middle?
This had a little paper cap, I think, and the cap is long gone. We just have the bottle now. So every family farm, most family farms, many would have hogs on the farm, and every year they would have a hog killing for their bacon and their ham and their meat, and they would use this to scrape the hair off the hog. It's a hog scraper. So yeah, most of their meat and their eggs all came from their farm. Their chickens and hogs, everything that they ate usually came right there from the farm. It's not sharp anymore, is it? Now these were something that were used for fun.
Is this a belt?
Well, it does have a strap on the end of one, and it's missing the strap on the other one. But what do you think these are?
Do they go together like this?
There's a pair of them, and they're the same.
I can see it has a clover, so does that have to do with it?
Not really.
I think it might be a belt.
You know what these are? These are ice skates.
Ice skates?
Mm-hmm. And so you would fit these right onto your shoe, and then the strap would clamp probably around your ankle, I guess. And these are your blades on the bottom. And people would ice skate. I've heard that the Pocomoke River actually would freeze over sometimes, and people would skate on the river.
Yeah, now I can go
Or
ice skating somewhere.
On I know, I think my great grandmother used these to skate on Big Mill Pond, which is close by. So these are old ice skates. Lena, would you like to go over and look at a table of games that they used to play a long time ago? Okay. Okay, so for National History Week, I have a challenge for you at home. It's a great time to turn off electronics and to get back to those basic things that they might have, that your family might have played with a long time ago. Some of those old-fashioned games like checkers and Old Maid, Go Fish, Rook, yo-yos and marbles. Or if you don't have any of those games, pull out a family board game one night and have everyone put away their phones and computers and all electronics.
And see if you can survive.
Another idea you can do, here's another challenge for you. Pick one night and make homemade ice cream. If you have the churn, that ice cream churn, you could make homemade ice cream, or there are different ways you can do it just using a coffee can or plastic bags. Try a recipe from an old cookbook. A lot of people have stuffed away in their kitchen somewhere and a recipe box that might have belonged to a family member with older recipes in it. Pull one out and I'll give you a tip. Usually the best ones from the recipe books have dirty pages or a dirty recipe card. That means they used it over and over again, and it got kind of dirty as they were cooking, as they were making the recipe. Go fishing or crabbing. It's a great time to get outside and do some of those things to get some fresh air and some sunshine. Knit, crochet, embroidery, start a vegetable garden. Just kind of brainstorm about things that people might have done and share that with your children. Thank you for joining us.